He fought in over 100 battles. He never lost a single one, not one. Empires sent their finest commanders against him, trained armies, superior numbers, fortified cities. Every single time the result was the same. The Prophet ﷺ himself gave him a title that no other man in Islamic history carries. Sayf Allah, the sword of Allah. And then, at the absolute height of his career, undefeated, irreplaceable, feared on every front Islam had ever opened, the Caliph of the Muslims removed him from command. No warning, no trial, no accusation of cowardice or failure, just removed. What does an undefeated man do when the people he has spent his life protecting take away the only thing he ever wanted? The answer to that question is the reason this man's story is still told today. This is Khalid ibn al-Walid radiyallahu an. Before Islam, he is already a warrior, born into the Banu Makhzum, one of the most powerful clans of the Quraysh, trained in combat from boyhood. By the time most men are settling into ordinary life, Khalid has already built a reputation across Arabia as someone you do not want standing across from you on a battlefield. And in the year 625, that reputation collides directly with the Muslims. The Battle of Uhud. The Muslim army, against every expectation, gains the early advantage. Victory is within reach. And then a small group of archers leave their position, and Khalid, watching from the flank, sees the gap before anyone else does. He moves. He leads a cavalry charge around the mountain and into the exposed Muslim rear. The momentum of the entire battle reverses in minutes. What should have been a Muslim victory becomes a costly, painful setback. This is the man who will one day be called the Sword of Allah. And on this day, he is the reason the sword almost fell on the believers instead. Years pass. Khalid watches the Muslims grow, not shrink, not collapse under pressure, the way every other resistance to Quraysh power eventually has, but grow. He watches the Treaty of Hudaybiyah hold. He watches the character of the Prophet ﷺ remain consistent under every kind of pressure Mecca throws at him. And something inside Khalid begins to shift. He later says it himself, "By Allah, it is now clear to me. This man is a true prophet. How long shall I delay?" In the year 629, Khalid ibn al-Walid walks to Medina and accepts Islam. The Prophet ﷺ does not hold the wound of Uhud against him. He receives him with words that settle the matter permanently. "Khalid, I have long awaited a man like you to come over to us, for I know you are not unintelligent." The man who broke the Muslim line at Uhud now stands inside it, and almost immediately his talent finds a new direction. The Battle of Mu'tah. The Muslim army, badly outnumbered against the forces of the Byzantine Empire, watches its commanders fall one after another in the fighting. Zayd ibn Haritha, then Ja'far ibn Abi Talib, then Abdullah ibn Rawaha. 3 commanders, gone in succession, the army on the edge of total collapse. Khalid takes the standard. He does not try to win the battle that day. He does something harder. He reorganizes the entire formation under direct enemy pressure, executes a fighting withdrawal that should not be possible against a force this size, and brings the army home intact. In Medina, the Prophet ﷺ gives him the title that will follow him for the rest of history. Sayf Allah, the sword of Allah. What follows is not one campaign. It is more than a decade of campaigns, across multiple fronts, against multiple empires, and Khalid does not lose. The Battle of Yarmouk against the Byzantine Empire, Khalid commands a Muslim force significantly outnumbered by a Roman army at the height of its imperial power, and breaks it so completely that the battle becomes one of the most studied military campaigns in history, taught at military academies on every continent centuries later. The campaigns against Persia, Khalid pushes into territory considered the heartland of one of the most powerful empires on earth, and the cities that expect a siege instead find themselves facing tactics they have never encountered. City after city, front after front. The pattern repeats so consistently that it stops looking like luck and starts looking like something closer to inevitability. By the time Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anh becomes the second Caliph of the Muslims, Khalid ibn al-Walid is not simply a successful general. He is, by any military measure available to history, undefeated, irreplaceable, the single most feared name on any battlefield where the Muslim banner flies. And then Umar radiallahu anh removes him from command. No defeat triggers it, no accusation of cowardice, no failure on any front. The reason, as the historical accounts make clear, is not personal. Umar radiallahu anh is watching something happen across the army and across the wider Muslim community that troubles him deeply. Soldiers, governors, ordinary people beginning to speak of victory in terms of Khalid, his skill, his genius, his name. Umar radiallahu anh fears a single thing above every battlefield outcome, that the believers might begin to credit a man for what belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. So he makes the decision. Khalid ibn al-Walid, the sword of Allah, undefeated across more than 100 engagements, is removed from supreme command and placed under the authority of a new commander he had, until that morning, been leading. Now watch what Khalid does. He does not resist. He does not raise an army of loyal officers who would have followed him into rebellion without hesitation. He does not write letters questioning the Caliph's judgment. He does not retreat from public life in bitterness. He reports, the very same day, to serve under the man now placed above him. He fights the next battle as a soldier in the ranks he used to command. He gives the same effort, the same discipline, the same total commitment to the mission that he gave when his name was on every order. This is the moment almost nobody talks about when they tell the story of Khalid ibn al-Walid. Not the 100 battles, not the title. This. A man who had earned, through every measurable standard available to military history, the right to be angry, chooses obedience instead. Not because he agrees with the reasoning, not because the decision doesn't sting, but because his submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was never conditional on holding command. He had been undefeated on every battlefield he ever stood on. This was the first one he had to win inside himself. Umar radiallahu anh, watching this response unfold, does not gloat. He does not treat the moment as a victory over a rival. The accounts tell us that even as the years pass, Umar continues to reflect on Khalid's character, and that later, after everything, his view of the man changes in ways he had not expected. Because what comes next is not the story of a general fading into resentful retirement. Khalid continues to serve, continues to fight under the command of others with the same intensity he once led with. The campaigns continue, the victories continue, The name on the order no longer matters to him the way it once might have mattered to a lesser man. And then, in the year 642, in the city of Homs, Khalid ibn al-Walid falls ill. Not from a wound, not from poison on some forgotten battlefield, from sickness, the way ordinary men fall ill at the end of an ordinary life. He understands what is happening to him. And the man who broke the line at Yarmouk, who reorganized a collapsing army under fire at Mu'tah, who never once in over 100 engagements tasted defeat, weeps. I have fought in so many battles seeking martyrdom, he says, that there is no part of my body left without a scar from a sword, a spear, or an arrow. And yet here I am, dying on my bed, like an old camel. May the eyes of the cowards never know rest. Think about what this means. A man who gave his life to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on every front Islam ever opened, who carried wounds across every inch of his body in pursuit of one single outcome, to die in the way of Allah on the field, in the moment of battle, does not get the death he wanted. He gets an ordinary death, in a bed, in a city far from the front lines. He spent his life commanding, and his tears are not for himself. They are for what he believes he was denied. A companion sitting with him in his final days offers him words that history has preserved. You must understand, O Khalid, he says, when the Messenger of Allah عليه وسلم named you the sword of Allah, he had already determined something about your fate. A sword of Allah is not meant to be broken. It could never be said that the sword of Allah fell to an enemy of Allah. It was not your destiny to die a martyr's death. It was your destiny to live a martyr's life. Khalid listens. He does not argue, but his heart, even at the very end, still yearns for the battlefield it will never see again. When he dies, his estate is searched. The man who commanded the conquest of empires, who could, by every account, have accumulated wealth beyond counting across more than a decade of campaigns, leaves behind almost nothing. His horse, his weapons, a single servant. That is the entire visible inheritance of the sword of Allah. Umar radiallahu anhu, hearing of his death, is said to weep and to acknowledge, in the years that follow, that removing Khalid had created a gap in the strength of the Muslim armies that could never quite be closed again. The women of his clan, the Banu Makhzum, take to the streets of Medina in open mourning, defying Umar's radiyallahu anh own standing order against wailing for the dead. And when Umar, angered, moves to enforce his rule as he always had, he stops at the door. He stands there a long moment, and he lets the women of Banu Makhzum weep for Abu Sulaiman. Because over a man like this, he says, those who weep are not wrong to weep. So what do you actually take from this story? Not simply that a man won 100 battles. Anyone can be remembered for winning. What you take is this: Khalid ibn al-Walid's greatest victory was never recorded in any campaign history. It happened in complete silence, the day he was told to step down from everything he had built, and he obeyed anyway. He sought one kind of ending his entire life and was given another, and even at the very end, wounded, scarred, weeping, he never once let the ending he wanted become bigger than the obedience he owed. That is the sword of Allah, not the blade, the submission behind it. Wallahu a'lam, and Allah knows best.